Welcome back to the Community Review on Hot 92.3. I'm Josefa Salinas, your host. We are here talking with New York Times bestseller T.D. Jakes about his new book, Instincts. So what exactly was the motivation for the book Instinct?
The book Instinct was a derivative of a moment that I had in South Africa when I was on a safari in South Africa, and I was seated between a Zulu and a zoologist. The Zulu was there for our protection, and the zoologist was there for our information. As the zoologist gave me all kinds of information about the animals, the ecosystem, the habitat, but he couldn't find the elephants. We saw other animals, but he couldn't find the elephant. The Zulu, who said nothing the whole time, stood up, waved his finger in the air in the wind, and said, "The elephant is over there." And all of a sudden I realized that I was sitting between intellect and instinct, that intellect can explain it, but instinct can find it. I see so many people who are intellectually prepared for a place that they are not instinctively liberated. And I wrote Instincts to show people how to activate your instincts. You already have them so that you can use them to accelerate your progress.
Wow, that must have been really interesting. Now tell me something. Have your instincts ever led you down the wrong path or led you in a direction that you thought you were going one way and you ended up going another?
It is not so much about the outcome of an incident. It is more about the positioning of a person's life. So just because you're an artist, it doesn't mean that when you do your first piece of art, it's going to sell. This is about being in the area that you were created to do, whether the business works or not. And then the more you do that, to believe that what you're doing is what you're supposed to do, is what leads to ultimate gratification and success. My friend Kathy Hughes talks about how many banks turned her down before she started Radio 1. See, just because you get a no doesn't mean that you're not in your right spot. So don't use temporary failure to dissuade you from instinctive power. Stay in the area that you are instinctively best and let prosperity find you. It's looking for you.
Have you ever looked back and said, man, I should have followed my instincts?
I have had countless people in my life that I love so well that I walked away from what was truly me to be with them and had to turn around and come back home, because I ultimately had to be honest with myself and true to my core and be responsible. I think most of us spend most of our lives contorting who we really are into what we think is more marketable, more fashionable, more acceptable, more sensual, more whatever it is. And while I understand the impetus through which we do that, the reality is you are best at being you, and find somebody who has an appreciation for what you already are. That way you don't have to be a contortionist in order to survive.
Now that is some advice I think every person out in the listening audience should take. Just be who you are. Stop trying to be somebody else. Now, I'm a mom. I'm a single mom. And I tell you, my listening audience knows, because I have verbally told them all several times, some of the challenges I've had being a mom, and especially raising a son. And, I've read your daughter's book, and she talks about some of the challenges that she went through. And I'm wondering that as a parent, how did you look at that, and how did you deal with that, having to work through and work with her on the challenges that she was going through?
I don't think that is so much an instinct. It is the way in which I define family. It depends on what you expect from family. If you expect that family should be like casting characters for film, then you're going to be disappointed. If you enter into the family understanding that it is ultimately a support group, that it should be a zone of unconditional love, that no matter what you do right or wrong within the comprise of that family, you come here with the right to be loved by those who brought you. And so that was never put on trial. We hurt, we cried, we fussed, we complained, we fainted, and then we say, get something to eat, and where we're going to put the baby at, and how are we going to make this work. Because I want my children to know that they don't have to perform in order to earn my love. that this is not a performance-based love. And when they lower my wife and I into the ground, that will be what they lost. That's the irreplaceable treasure of mama and daddy. It's that this is the one place you can always come, right or wrong, weak or strong, and know that the door will always open.
Now, is there a favorite part of the book, Instinct, that you wrote? Something that really has a special meaning or that's really close to your heart? Or when you look at the book, you go, chapter blah, blah, blah. That's my favorite.
Wow, I've got several, but I'll just pick one. I think one of the things I love so well, I talk about Sally Quinn, a friend of mine from the Washington Post, invited me to be a guest editorialist for her On Faith section, and I wrote several pieces, op-ed pieces for her. But I stopped writing them, and she asked me why, and I said, well, Sally, I wrote 2 or 3 of them, and I thought they were really good, but when I read the comments, they were so negative, I thought maybe I wasn't good at it. And she was shocked. She looked at me and said, those people who respond on those sites are not our audience. She gave us the demo of their demographics, and she said, those people don't even fit the profile. Some of them can't even spell. She said, why did you allow those people to move you away from this opportunity? And it was then that I realized that giraffes eat from the tops of the trees, and they cannot be dissuaded by turtles who eat from the grass. Even though they occupy the same space, they don't have the same worldview because you eat on the level of your vision. And what I had allowed to happen, I had allowed a turtle comment to pull my head down from a giraffe opportunity.
Now, how many times in life have we done that? What a great piece of wisdom. Wow. You know, I could sit here all morning talking, but let's get back to the different ways that people can get a copy of your book. We all know technology and social media is here, so I'm sure there's a Facebook page, a website, and everything for the book, right?
Let me tell you about that.
Okay.
You can go on to instinctthebook.com, and you can do an assessment and evaluation of what type of instincts and what type of instinctive leader you are. Instinctthebook.com. And you just go in there and check it out, take a look around in there. This is the first book that I've ever done that came out in Spanish and in English simultaneously. So Instincto is available for my Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters in bookstores wherever books are sold. We also have the ebooks and we have the audiobooks for those who like to drive and listen to somebody read to
those of us who are stuck in traffic
Right.
in LA
Yeah.
for 2 hours every day. You don't know how many audiobooks I have. And I just put the book in and it just makes that 2-hour ride home.
Yeah, by the
go
time
fly
you get
right
home,
by.
you will have gone through my book sometimes
There
in
you
this
go.
traffic out here. But it's nice to have all of those variations.
Well, thank you so much
It
for
was
being
wonderful.
with us. It was so good to have you
was a
here.
great interview.
I tell you, Vanessa and I are working on a project, and I cannot tell me if I'm wrong. At least 6 or 7 times since we worked on it for a year, but in the last month we've really started launching it. At least 6 or 7 times in the last month, people keep saying, have you talked to TD Jakes about this? Have you shown this to TD Jakes? And that's why it was the hand of God. It had to be. When I opened up my email on
Right.
Friday and somebody said, hey, you want to interview TD Jakes? I said, wow.
Isn't that crazy?
See how God works?
Yeah. So tell me about it.
Yeah,
What are you doing?
we will. We are actually putting together a documentary called The Making of a Man, A Mother's Journey. Because Vanessa is married and has a son and some other children as well. But I am not, and I'm raising a son. So we're going to men from all walks of life all over the world, asking them, what does it take to be a man in the 21st century? Because there's nothing like that. There's never been anything done like that. So we're gathering. We'll be the first to start gathering, and
That's
I'm sure many
fascinating.
people will follow, to gather to pull together the wisdom of these men.
You know, it's funny because you can be present and still be absent.
Oh, yes.
you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And it is quite a project to raise men today, no matter whether it's 2-parent or 1-parent. It's very difficult.
Yeah, and unfortunately, all of us, we especially single mothers, we're so afraid to say, I can't do this, I need help, because then somebody's going to turn around and go, oh, well, you must be less of a mom then. You
Right.
can't do it, because we've been told we have to do it all.
And that's so crazy. Nobody can do it all.
Yeah.
And you heap all of that on yourself and you make yourself miserable. And the reality is there are certain things. I'll tell you a simple story. Last year for Father's Day, we asked all the men in our church to wear bow ties. Simple thing. Just we were trying to do something. The women always do something. We were trying to do something. it unearthed so many things because so many grown men were embarrassed to tell me they didn't know how to tie a bow tie. Now, to a woman, that might not be a big deal, but learning how to tie a tie is something a father does with a son. And 80% of the men in my church had no fathers. So the bow tie was a reminder that nobody had taught you to tie a tie. As simple as that.
And we have an anecdote we're putting in the documentary. One of our interview subjects, Dr. Arthur Gray, he was going to court. And a young man stopped him in the middle of the sidewalk there as he's walking to court. Excuse me, sir, I need you to help me for a second. And he thought he was asking for money or something. So he's like, well, what do you need, son? And he goes, help me with this tie before I walk into the courthouse. I don't know what to do. Wow. And he said, how old are you? And he said, I'm 25. And he stopped. Everything he was doing, he was late to court himself. He undid his tie. He said, follow me step by step. And step by step, he showed him how to tie his tie. And the young man had tears in his eyes.
Oh, no, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
And it's something
but see, women don't understand. We don't understand
you
that.
You wouldn't think about that.
No.
But for a guy to be able to tie his own tie is a big thing. And to be a grown man and can't do it, it is a reminder that no man invested in you. Just as simple as that. And from there, it goes to much bigger things, like holding a job and all kinds of other stuff. But the tie was a simple illustration.
Well, hopefully we can give our young men a step up by reading the book, Instinct, The Power to Unleash Your Inborn Drive. T.D. Jakes, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
He dropped a lot of knowledge on us today. Don't go away. There's more coming up on the Community Review. The Hollywood Fringe is happening right now, June 12th through the 29th. Hundreds of plays, and we've got the actresses, director, and producer from one of them coming up next on the Community Review Hot 92.3.